wasn't bad.
Where's my story kind of start? This is my daddy, my hero, with me. This is my kindergarten graduation picture. This is circa 19, and at the time, my father served as the New York State Assemblyman representing the Bronx neighborhood where we lived. Loved him to death. When he left public service, he joined my grandmother who was running our business, and he was able to leverage his experience in the public sector with what she had been doing on the private sector to help grow the business. And they worked as a really good team, son and mother, but you have those things, those challenges that you deal with. What roles do they play? They found some way to make it work. And I got to watch to see how do you lead as a lady and to see how do you lead as a strong black man. So my dad was my hero, right? And as my brother and I got older, he taught us a lot about doing business, but we didn't necessarily spend a lot of time in the business. So this picture represents an award my dad received for business with my brother and I by his side. And as you can see, my brother's now about 6'5", but he'll always be my little brother. And so this is where the story gets kind of crazy. 2008, a lot of stuff was happening here, right? It was the economy was turning, right? People were losing jobs. People were losing their houses. And I found out I was going to lose my daddy. My dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2008. And the doctors told us we would probably have 2 years with him. Well, in that time, we started making preparations. What are we going to do? Daddy, how do I do a bid? Daddy, how do I take care of payroll while you go to get your chemotherapy? What do I need to do at the office? What do I need to learn in terms of licensing? So I'm thinking I'm going to have 2 years, right? That's enough time to learn how to run a business, especially a business you hadn't been involved in. I had been working in sales. Actually, I'd been living in Texas. Like, I didn't have a care in the world. And I came back when I found out that my father was sick. So during his chemo treatments, he would talk to me about business, but he still kind of shielded me from some things because he understood that I was trying to deal just with his being sick. So he didn't want to trouble me with the business. Now, from the time we lost my grandmother in 2003 to the time my dad was diagnosed with cancer in 2008, we went from doing about $2 million in business to doing $350,000 in business. So I understood that he was going through a lot of pain because he had lost his mother. He was dealing with some physical issues that he never shared with me until we found out that he had cancer. And so they always wanted to make sure that my brother and I felt like we had a choice. Because a lot of times in family businesses, you hear with the younger generations, they feel like they're forced into working in the business. And you never really want to do that. You want people to come into the business wanting to be involved. You want them to have a sense of ownership, but also want them to be engaged and to feel like they can add value to your organization. And so my dad kind of shielded us from that, and he never made us feel like we had to be involved with the business. So he said, okay, be happy-go-lucky. We have a business so that you can do the things that you want to do in life. But given the choice between what I want to do in life and being with my dad, my choice was to be with my dad. So we spent the last few months that he was here talking about life in grand scale, but also talking about business. So he started to talk to me about the things he did on a daily basis. Still wasn't enough time because 4 months after he was diagnosed, he passed away. My dad passed away on a Saturday. Thursday was his funeral. And then we had to take care of payroll. So on October 4th, 2008, when we lost my dad, Johnson Security had 16 employees, 2 clients, and 3 contracts. That's right, 16 employees, 2 clients, and 3 contracts. And my brother and I looked at each other and we said, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to pay the bill and make sure that this guy gets where he got to go. But after that, we have 16 people who have families who are depending on getting a check. So do we cash our chips in and keep it going, or do we make a vested effort to try to make this work? So he said, JJ, we're going to make this work. Why? Because they had planted a seed in us. Dorothy and Wilbert had planted seeds in us of entrepreneurial spirit and of business and of taking care of your community and a sense of ownership. And Dorothy and Charles Sr. had worked together to cultivate those seeds within us so that we had a sense of responsibility. And we know even though we had choices, that it was much greater for us to have an impact on our community than to be selfish during our time of pain. So we decided we would make it work. And people always ask me, how did you do it? How did you do it? Well, it's not that it didn't hurt. It really did hurt. My dad used to call me every single morning, especially when I lived in Texas. And every day he would greet me. He'd be the first call I get. He would say, good morning, this is your dad with a wake-up call. And as cheesy as it was, I looked forward to that. And when I moved back home, my father didn't make me go live someplace else. He let me move back home, which I never thought was happening. Because when I was young, he always said, 18, you're out. Gotta go. So he let me come back home, and I said, well, Daddy, do you want me to leave? He said, no, I want you to stay. This is your home. I want you to stay. And every morning when I would wake up, he would come to my door. He would peer in my bedroom just to make sure I was still there. And then when he would see me move, he would, good morning, this is your dad with a wake-up call. Dad, it's not a call. You're standing right there. So yes, I was going through some pain on October 4th, 2008 when I lost my dad. But when I reflect, I think back to the movie The Lion King. How many of you have seen the movie The Lion King? One of my favorite scenes. Oh, so for those of you who haven't seen the movie, it's a movie about a lion. A lion named Mufasa. And Mufasa is the king of Pride Rock. And Mufasa looks down over his kingdom to see all of the things that he's responsible for. And Mufasa has his young cub, Simba. And Simba sits there and looks over the kingdom with him. And they talk about how they're going to rule and how wonderful it is. But he's trying to plant in Simba a sense of responsibility. Well, Mufasa has some issues with family. He starts to tussling, and Mufasa ends up dying. And in fear, Simba runs away. Simba leaves what he's entitled to, what he's supposed to be responsible for, because he's afraid, because he's lost his father, who sits high above the kingdom. Now, I don't think, I don't have delusions of grandeur and think that I'm a queen or a princess or my dad was a king, but there's some real life lessons in that movie. So Simba's out hiding, and after some time, he has a chance encounter with an old family friend, Rafiki. And they're talking, and Rafiki pops Simba upside the head. Ouch! What did you do that for? And Rafiki says, oh, that was in the past. It doesn't matter. And when I think about what my grandparents and my father did with the business and where they got it to that point on October 4th, 2008, I'm proud of them, but at the same time, I realize that all of those results are for naught if my brother and I didn't decide to do something else. Why? Because it's in the past. It doesn't matter today, right? So we need to figure out what we're going to have to do to move forward. So I hope I'm not boring you with this story, but I just think it's very timely. I was able to push through the pain because I had so much poured into me and because I kept it in perspective. And I hope that whatever you go through, because working with family, all my family people out there, at times it's not easy. It's not pretty. And sometimes you don't want to sit across the dinner table from that certain loved one because they've done something cross in the office. But you can work together to make it work.